Hey everybody, you're listening to the Smoke Meat Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Pittman. Smoke Meat's brought to you by Joe's Underground at the corner of 8th and Broad in Augusta, Georgia. Head on over to Joe's Facebook page right now. They've got the coolest new t-shirts out. They're closed right now because of the pandemic, but when they're open, Jeremy and the gang are going to come in and we're going to have a hell of a party down there. So get your t-shirt, get ready. Remember, I goes to Joe's and so should you. Today on Smoke Meat, we got a good friend of mine, a young man named Steve Joyner. Steve's a publicist. He has just been an all-around great guy, good friend, and we're going to go on and get this thing started. How you doing, Steve?
Doing good this morning. How are you?
Man, if I was any better, I'd be twins.
Oh, that's that's great. Speaking of twins, I actually just took my twin nieces for a walk. They're
Nice.
both, no, I'm serious. They're both six. They're identical twins, and I took them for a walk around the neighborhood.
Oh man, I bet they dug that.
They did. It's when you're that age, everything's new, and they're just fascinated by everything, squirrels, and nature, and all that good stuff. And this is like the only fun they can have right now because of everything being the way it is. I'm currently in Missouri, as you know. I live out in California,
Yeah.
but it's just it's a beautiful day out, so it was great.
Oh man, I know you've been staying fairly busy because of this thing, or not just because of this, but during this, you've kept your hands pretty full.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's really I and I hope everybody who hears this is doing well and surviving. But prior to this happening, I already kind of lived like a Howard Hughes shut-in. I don't mean that bad, but like so. I'm a publicist, and the majority of my day is spent on the phone, and a lot of it, certain the clients I have, I put them on programs and handle their their stuff, and I handle their stuff, and I book a lot of interviews, and I have no, I think the record I set for myself inadvertently was I had booked maybe 18 interviews in one day one time.
Nice.
Oh, it was hell. So, but I would do that. I would be inside at my house out in California, and I would go. So I was inside my office slash room, and I would handle all this stuff. And so I was already, I wouldn't really go out that much. Every now and then, a lot of them they live out of state. There's just a handful in Los Angeles, but for the most part, I don't get to meet them as that much. So whenever I have the rare opportunity to meet them, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's cool. I guess. And I'm sorry, folks. I'm a little nervous because I don't really do these things. I put hundreds of these together, but I don't actually get interviewed that much. So, Brad, you got to hold my hand through this dark valley.
I will hold your hand through this dark alley.
Okay. So,
But
I guess the backstory you want to hear, right?
I do, yeah.
Okay. So, I was born in Southern California many, many moons ago, and my mom, both my parents are gone now. My mom was really good friends with Cecil B. DeMille's granddaughter, Diane DeMille. And my mom went to a school in Arcadia. It was called Anokia. It was a girls' college preparatory school, and that's where her and Diane had met. And obviously, her grandfather made the Ten Commandments, one of the greatest directors of the 20th century. She knew Leo Jarosh's daughter and Ernie Kovac's daughter, and Troy Donahue's sister. So it was pretty cool. And I was kind of a movie nerd at a very, very young age. And then I had I had inadvertently landed in an RC Cola commercial. I don't even know if they make that stuff anymore.
Oh yeah, they
And
do.
they do. I haven't seen Royal Crown in years. I mean, but I had landed one, and then they started doing a lot of extra work. See, back then they would have kids of certain height, hair colors, ethnicity, backgrounds, and so on, and they would use them. So as an extra in a film or TV series, you're basically just like walking scenery in the back, and it's interesting, and it adds to it. So I did that, and then I went to an acting school when I was 6 called Multimedia Arts. It was taught by this woman named Drew Scott, and one of my teachers was an actor named Gordon Jump, who was on WKRP in Cincinnati.
About to
And
say that's Mr. Carlson.
yeah, Mr. Carlson, yeah. And he was doing at the time. He was doing. I think I don't know if WKRP had been done. I don't remember if it was over by '81 or not, but he was doing Maytag repairman commercials.
Yeah.
I remember that he was a Maytag repairman, and just a really interesting guy. And but the first thing that I ever did professionally was a horrible Disney movie that probably no one ever, only a handful full of people saw, and it was called The Devil and Max Devlin.
I know that one.
Did you see it?
Yes,
My condolences.
I am a
Uh,
movie nerd, man.
I know, but that was just the weirdest film. I mean, it's still, it was with Elliot Gould and Bill Cosby, and it's about Elliot, gets killed. He's a slumlord, just kind of like a nasty person. He gets killed and he goes to hell, and Bill Cosby's the devil's lawyer, which is just a big joke in itself nowadays. But anyway, he reconditions him to Earth on the contingency that he gets three children's souls in exchange for his. So one of the children was Adam Rich, who played Nicholas on Eight Is Enough,
Mhm.
and his mother in the film owned a daycare center, and I was one of the daycare kids. And I remember spending a lot of time around Elliot. I met Bill Cosby once on the set, and
That you remember. Boom, boom.
I see, this is why, if you see the, okay, folks, if you see the poster for this film, it's got Elliot holding a contract. He's like looking at a contract, and Kaz is over him with devil horns. It's just so profoundly evil looking, nowadays, given what happened to him. But yeah, no, I only met him once, and I remember, but he was very, very kind back then. I remember him wearing glasses. He always wore glasses when he wasn't on film. And it's sad. I don't want to get into him, but it's sad what happened. So I did that, and then there was a TV show called Emergency. Do you remember Emergency?
Man, 30-year paramedic. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I don't know. A lot of people
I,
forgot
I
about it,
don't
but
trust anybody that when they open their code drugs, don't take and
Mhm.
flip the caps off with their thumbs. Hard
Uh-huh.
to trust those people that don't do that.
Well, I was on one episode of that, and Adam Rich, incidentally, it was because of him, and I don't know, it was cool. And the profound thing about the episode I was on was, this is a creepy story. Actually, I haven't really told many people a story because it was just too weird. It was an episode about a plane crash and a commercial jetliner that crashed in a neighborhood. And just 3 years prior to them filming that, there was a horrific plane crash in San Diego. PSA wiped out a whole neighborhood.
Mhm.
So it was really weird that it happened around that time. So I did that, and I did, Chips. I was on an episode of Chips. That was kind of neat.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I met Larry Wilcox for the first time. Larry's such a great guy, and and then I just didn't do really much. So I mean, sporadic things here and there. It's just basically, okay, we need a little blonde kid, or we need, and that was it. If I was lucky, I got the gig.
Yeah.
And then back then, as you know, Brad, you meet people, and it was a smaller world back then. It was a safer world back then. Jackal Halloran, a dear friend of mine who you've interviewed, talks about how safe it was for us back then. We never worried about kidnappers or any of this. We'd be up from sun up to sundown.
Yeah.
So, and then I didn't want to really pursue it. I wanted to live a quasi normal life, but I still did theater a lot. And then fast forward years and years later, I started doing PR, and then my mother she got ill and she died of heart disease in 2013. And about a year later, there was a picture of me with a man named Carl Gottlieb, who was a screenwriter who wrote Jaws,
Mhm.
and Joe Alves, who's a production designer. Did you interview Joe yet?
I have not.
Okay, I got to get in touch with him.
I was
Anyway,
fixing to say, I haven't.
Joe Alves was the guy that built the shark. You and I will. I'll introduce you to him.
Yeah, we
Anyway,
have
and
a
then.
list after this show.
Mhm. And it was a Jaws event, because they were the guy that wrote the story and the guy that made the beast. Peter Benchley wrote the novel. Carl wrote the screenplay. So we were they had some of these older actors, and they do autograph shows, and meet and greets and Comic Cons and crap
Mhm.
and screenings. And we were at one for Jaws, and a Facebook friend of mine in Boston reached out to me. He said, I'd like to interview them for my podcast. And at the time, Brad, I didn't listen to podcasts, and it was foreign to me. I didn't know what the hell they were. I had no interest in them. I would, sorry about that.
That's
I would
okay.
hear, people like Rush Limbaugh and Michael Savage and those dudes, like talking heads on the radio, Stern. I never listened to any of those people, but I was aware of them. And I said, well, sure, I could set it up. And then from that one meeting, that first show I booked, I've now worked with Oh my dear Lord, I've lost track. So many shows, and I booked countless interviews, and now I have people that I put to shows like yours,
Yeah.
and it gives good entertainment. And some of these folks, like Jack, who I mentioned, people only knew him from Superman or things like that.
Mhm.
And then when you hear his backstory, it's like, holy smokes, you get to hear him in a different light. You do really great interviews. I love the interview you did with Robert Wall, by the way. That was cool.
Oh, that was awesome. That surprised me when he asked me my prison meal.
Oh yeah, he does that,
Yeah.
and Are you Facebook friends with him or not?
Yeah.
Okay, he actually posted about that. He said I did a show in Georgia, and I asked about the prison meal. But sorry, that's a thing with him.
Yeah.
But that was a great interview with you and Robert. That was great. And so it gives entertainment, and some of these people have things they're promoting. Not all of them are retired and living in retirement land.
Yeah.
A lot of them are still very active, like himself. But given the way the world is now, they're able to do these and share stories. I mean, so from after you hear these interviews, like you did with Robert and other folks, you see their films or their work later on, and you look at them at a whole different, well, little stories that maybe the general public doesn't know. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Last night, I know Lisa London, when I interviewed her, we've been talking back and forth some since then, and she
Mm-hmm.
sent me a link to some of her movies that are coming out on Amazon Prime, and
Yeah.
I watched a couple of them last night. I'm like, man, this is awesome. I know this person, and
Lisa,
it just
yeah,
adds
yeah,
levels to it.
that will happen to you. Just, I mean, it's surreal when you're. I had Lisa real quick. I love Lisa London. She was one of the first people I ever put on a show
Hmm.
after Carl and Joe. She was like one of the first five. Her and Candy Clark from American Graffiti and Larry Wilcox. I got Larry, and that was like one of the first few people. And she's just a delightful lady, and her filmography is a trip, and
Yeah.
she's cool. I've been privileged enough to work with her. I know her and her husband Barry. She's cool as the day is long.
Hmm. Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I've had so many great guests, since I met you. I mean, it just, man,
Well, who's been your favorite, or I don't want to pin you down, but who's one that's still standing out in your mind to this day?
yeah, all of them I've loved. I mean,
Oh,
I've had some that, you know, every host, none of them will admit to this. I will, because I'm realistic.
yeah,
Every host has somebody that they're like, okay, I've got this one set up. I'm not sure how I'm going to really, what angle I'm going to do this from to make it better, and I'm not really sure how it's going to go. But if you want your pudding, you got to eat your peas. And those have turned out to be some of the best ones. Um, and I tell you the
have
one
you?
that, huh? Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
The one that tickled me, like I say, I love everybody I've done. I've not had a bad one, and
Yeah.
don't look for any bad ones. Larry Hankin, he tickled me because one of his characters is one of my favorite characters in any movie, and it's Doobie from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I never realized that was him.
That's him. He was the cab driver in Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah.
And that's funny you say that because I had watched that movie about 3 months, no, 2 months ago before I
Mhm.
came here, and I see them get in the cab, and I remember the scene because it was funny. They're stuck in Wichita and they get in a cab, and the cab's real gaudy, and and I'm looking at the guy, I'm like, that's Larry, and he's one of these character actors that has literally just appeared in everything,
Yeah.
and you don't know his story, but he's that guy from that thing, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that's what I love about character actors. A lot of times it's terrible to say you may not know their name, but when you see a face, you're like, "Holy crap, that's one of my favorite people."
Yep.
And that's one thing I'm getting to do a lot of is I'm getting a lot of character actors that people know them, but they don't know the name, and then they hear this me interview them, and they're like, "Holy crap, I know that guy! You got to talk to him," and
Those are great.
it's
Yeah.
cool.
Did you ever interview? What happened with Sonny Sawyer?
Hadn't got his information yet. I got to get that from you.
Okay, he's a Georgia guy. Yeah, he was Enos in the Dukes of Hazzard. He was actually in the Devil Max Devil.
I did not know that.
He played big Billy Joe Honeycutt. Anyway, he was a motorcycle guy. Yeah, he's great. When I talked to him, I said, we never met, but we were in a movie together. And I told him, he said, oh my, and we talked for hours. He's great. But yeah, I mostly know these character obscure people. I mean, people have asked me, have you ever met Brad Pitt. No, I haven't met Brad Pitt. I met Brad Pittman, but I never met Brad Pitt. So, but the character actors are great, and then when you see them or hear them, like on your show, and then you see them later, like let's say you're watching Friends, you
Mm-hmm.
see old Larry, you're like, man, I heard him on the show. He had a funny story about his days touring as an opening act for a rock band doing stand. Like he's got great stories.
He is amazing. And Jack was
Larry,
great.
oh Jack's. Well, did Jack tell you that people actually thought he was a mute when they met him in real life?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
could probably do 30 episodes with just Jack.
I want to get him to do his own podcast. I literally have been. I've mentioned it to him just as a joke one time.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Wall. I got to tell you this later on off the air, but Robert Wall is interested in doing his own podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, man, he'd be great. So, but yeah, it's just these really weird characters, these interesting character actors. It's strange and it's cool. I'll watch it. The funniest story I was going to tell you, which was weird, was one night. You remember Nick at Night?
Yeah.
I don't know if they still have that TV land. I'm sure they do. I had watched like a block of it was like 5 episodes of different shows, and I kid you not, Brad, I knew at least one person from each show. One of my good friends, Stan Livingston, was Chip Douglas on My Three Sons. They did My Three Sons, and they did Good Times, and so it was really it was cool. And it's you realize that with actors and entertainers, they live very unstable. Okay, like you're a paramedic, you have your job,
Mm-hmm.
you know how many hours a week you're going to do it, you know when you're going to do it, and so on. But with an actor, it's job to job. They're journeymen. They go from job to job, which is really. Hold on, I'm walking into a thing here. My apologies.
That's okay.
Which is interesting, So, and that's why a lot of them keep going until I don't even think there is a retirement plan for some of these cats. They just keep doing it forever.
Yeah.
Like I hope Larry never quits. I hope Larry Hankin does movies till the day he dies.
Oh man, Larry just I think that one of the first things I saw was Yours, Mine, and Ours back in 1968,
Uh-huh.
and this man has been grinding since then. I mean, it's just when nobody else is working, the character actor's always got a spot.
Yeah, well, he was in Escape from Alcatraz.
Yeah.
He transcends generations. It's weird. And he's a great guy. So these are the people I've been blessed enough to meet in my life. And then also I'm working with up and coming people too,
Mm-hmm.
like Tammy and Neil Gordon, and I mean
Yeah.
some of these other folks who really no one knows that much about, but they're making their own mark and they're doing their own thing and they're making a positive impact. I've had stories of, and I'm sorry for all the background noise, folks. My apologies. I hope it's not picking up too much of background noise.
No, we're fine. And to me, I don't edit those things out because that's the character of the show.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's the character of the show, man.
All right. I just didn't want it to be too distracting or anything. So,
Nah.
um, people ask me funny stories about what I've done. I mean, everybody knows the Wilford Brimley story, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll tell you a story that I have never actually shared with anybody on the air. So I'm going to give you a first story you've never heard.
Outstanding.
Okay, so this happened in 2016. Do you remember the comedian Gallagher?
I remember Gallagher very well. Sledge-O-Matic, baby.
I booked Gallagher on a show in Long Island, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now this show was hosted by 2 Italian guys, and they were just like it was very very typical. They were nice but stereotypical dudes. They
Mm-hmm.
trash shell suits. It was funny. Well, that show would air live, but they'd also have Meerkat. Meerkat was like a streaming network where you could actually see the dudes in the studio talking.
Mm-hmm.
So Gallagher, I got in touch with Gallagher through another guy who used to open for him. He would have it was a comedian that would open for his act, when he would do like Melon Crazy or Stuck in the 60s and these specials. Well, I had gotten Gallagher to go into the studio and do an interview. Like whenever I can get like in studio interviews, I dig that.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. I get a call from the guy, and it's live, and I'm at somewhere. I think it was a grocery store. I was out, a grocery store or Target. So I'm out in public somewhere, and I get a text. Call me right now. This guy is crazy, and I'm like, what? And so I call up, And when you call a radio station, folks, you hear background stuff and you hear like muffled, distant, voices and stuff. And the guy, who very, very New York guy, he says, if this son of a bitch does, excuse me, if this guy does this, I'm gonna kill him. And I said, if he does what? He says, I'll put him on the phone. Gallagher gets on the phone. Hey, Steve. He's all, I don't know what's the matter with these guys. I can't imitate his voice, but it's Gallagher. He's like, I don't know what's the matter with these guys, but I've been doing this every night for like almost 35 years and no one's complained. And what he wanted to do was when Gallagher found out there was a video element to the show, he wanted to smash a watermelon right there.
I can dig that.
Yeah, it's his act. It's Gallagher, but they didn't want him smashing a watermelon because of the set.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a set. They thought if this guy smashes it, it's going to be a mess and so on. So here's where it gets crazy. I said, look, man, and they're like, you're not smashing a watermelon in here. And he's like, no, it'll be great. And he says, we'll put plastic up. I mean, he was really, and I'm like, no, dude, I'm really talking like this is a bad idea. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's funny because they go back on the air and like 40 seconds, a minute prior to them going back on the air, they're yelling at each other and that. And then they go on the air and then now we're back and they're talking like they're best friends. That was the funny part of the whole thing. So the interview is going good. And then I get a text and the guy says, well, we could lay plastic down, but he can only smash one. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is all great. It's Sledge-O-Matic. He's going to do his shtick. So Gallagher, and then the guy texts us like a couple minutes later saying now he's being impossible. He wants to smash three. And I'm like, what the hell? This is the weirdest thing, right? So they go to break again, and they were gonna, it was gonna be a longer break of their sponsors and commercials. And Gallagher's like, this, just I want to smash three watermelons because there's a comedy bit I'm gonna bring, and I'm like, just do one. He says, just do one, huh? You want me to do one? I said, yeah, just do one. So he says, fine, I'll do it. And he has his prop truck. He had his stuff with him. He had planned on doing this, and this is where the story gets really, really bad. They bring in the watermelon. You can see them, during the break. Meerkat's always running, so you can see them taping up stuff and putting up plastic and stuff and protecting themselves. And he brings in a watermelon, and they're like, "Oh, what are you going to do with that?" I think we know what you're going to do. It's obvious what they're going to be up to, right?
Yeah.
And so they um they he gets the watermelon out and he's got this big ear to ear grin like a mischievous child that knew he pulled like a prank or something. I'm not really thinking much of it because I'm trying to trying to figure out what happens. And then so I said, okay, he's gonna smash it. Everything's cool. So I literally put the phone down, and then without maybe a minute and a half later, I get a phone call and the guy is flipping out. He is cussing. He is, oh my God, man, he is just going, he's going completely nuts. And anyway, I said, what happened? He says, I'm going to kill this, blah, blah, blah. My shirt's ruined. Everything is ruined. There's chocolate syrup everywhere.
Oh
And I'm
shit.
like, chocolate syrup? Gallagher had filled a watermelon held out with chocolate syrup. And it looked like a bathroom after a Taco Bell convention.
They said he could bust one. It's
They
their
said he could
fault.
bust one. It was the devil's in the detail, and they didn't kill him. They let him go. But that was my Gallagher story.
Oh, that is outstanding. Yeah, I remember watching Gallagher way back.
Oh, he was great, and his comedy too was very. You either liked him or not. I mean, everybody remembers him smashing things. Yeah, that was how he closed the show. But if you ever listen to his stuff, he was thought provoking. He was kind of like George Carlin. He
Yeah.
made your comic. You know how he was. He was one of those thought provoking comics, and he was out. He was great. I loved Gallagher. He's got a twin brother. Did you
Yeah,
know that?
yeah, I knew he had a twin, and didn't his twin get into or trying to copy his
Okay,
act for a while or
yeah,
something?
Gallagher. Okay, Gallagher's identical twin brother would do his act,
Mm.
but he made a contingency. He said, "You can do my act, but you can't smash watermelons." So Gallagher would be in Kansas City. The real Gallagher would be in Kansas City, and his twin would be in like Tampa, Florida, the same night. Is that no one figured out he'd be at two places at once. And his twin's like, "No, I want to smash watermelons." And so they actually went to court and fought over it, and he won. But there's a very good documentary about him. But the whole things with smashing watermelons with Gallagher, that all started out as an accident.
Yeah.
He was at the Comedy Store, and Mitzi Shore, Pauly Shore's mother, who ran the Comedy Store out of L.A., said, he wanted, it was a New Year's act, and he had seen some old commercial like of a KitchenAid or something, and he incorporated it, and well, the rest is history. And she said, "You got to do it again." So I don't know.
Yeah.
I miss the old comics we had. I loved Hankin and guys like Gallagher because they were hippies. Larry's a hippie, yeah, straight up.
No.
He's an old hippie.
Yeah, definitely.
Isn't there an old country? Isn't there a country song called "He's an Old Hippie" or
There
something?
is. It's the Bellamy Brothers.
Okay, he's an old hippie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Larry, I had met through Carl Gottlieb, the screenwriter of Jaws, because they had worked together in a committee. The committee was, you remember I told you about the committee, the comedy troupe?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that dude was just, he'd do improv stuff, and it was very cutting edge for 1960, in the mid 60s. And no, Larry's great, man.
Hey, he's doing videos from home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At his website, thereallarryhankin.com.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody go check that out, because Larry's a great guy. He's hilarious.
Yeah, you say his name. I don't know if if you told your friends, like, I'm interviewing him, they won't know who he is if you say his name. Who? And then, oh, that guy. Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing.
Yeah, and that's what I love about interviewing character actors, because when you first say their name, you're like, who in the world? And then when you see them or hear them, you're like, holy shit, I know that guy.
Yeah, it's surreal.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's almost more exciting than meeting like William Shatner or something,
Yeah.
Like Robert Wall. You really wouldn't know Robert Wall's name, but if you mention well, maybe because of Arliss you would.
Yeah.
But if you mention it, it's like, oh my God, And then, you get this, well, what are they like? Because you never really get to know their backstories.
Yeah.
Did you interview Scotty Schwartz?
I did. I had a good time interviewing
I love
Scotty.
Scotty. Okay, so Scott's one of my best friends on earth. He was I got in a horrible car accident in 2017. I was driving a minivan, and I got hit by a 10-ton truck, and I had to crawl out. It was gnarly. I had to crawl out. Obviously, everything worked out okay, but I had to crawl out of the vehicle. Mm-hmm. And Scott had heard about it, and he called me up, and he was Scott's just a solid guy, man. I like Scott a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, he, talking to him, that was just such a great talk. And the one thing about character actors that I'm finding I don't really like to do, but I have to, because it's part of the gig,
Mm-hmm.
is I hate starting to concentrate on their big thing, Like toward the end of my talk with Scotty, I said, I got to bring it up, man. And we talked a little bit about the pole.
About what?
About the pole from the Christmas Story.
Oh yeah.
And
that's one of the things.
Because I don't want to be the guy that I don't want to be every podcast. I'm sure he's had to answer that 10 million times.
But he's used to that. You got to remember, they have fan questions. Carl gets asked about Jaws. It's just one of those things. They're fan questions, so it's cool. And he told you the story about. Did he tell you about how every year? There'll be letters from people saying, my son did that. He almost lost his tongue and all. Really, that happens quite a bit. There's a thing where he says, well, your son's a schmuck for doing that. It's very dangerous. It was a gag in a movie.
Yeah. But yeah, I love talking to him. And the neat thing is, he was outside with his kids while we were talking.
Scott doesn't have kids.
I like the
Scott doesn't have kids.
Who was he with? He was with somebody that had kids.
Well, he's probably like me. I'm not. I'm with someone who has kids too. Who knows? Scotty's probably out doing something.
Oh yeah, but it just that's the way I like to do these things. I don't. If I could get somebody to come over here in the studio, one, it would be kind of weird because my studio's in my basement, and I could see it being like, I know you don't know me. I'm a big fan. Would you come down into my basement and let me interview you? Yeah, that'd be successful. But, doing it on the phone or Skype or whatever.
Well, what about with Eric Morris?
Yeah, Eric was great.
Yeah, you can bring Eric in your basement.
This is true.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm
never seen again.
I'm kind of quarantined down here right now for all this good stuff. And
Yeah. Are you now? How are you doing with all this?
I'm doing good. I'm ready for it to be over. I hate being essential. I despise it. But
Okay.
the great thing about it is I've not missed a check yet because of
That's
this,
it. Well, God bless. That's important.
and I am getting to help people. And I am staying down here in the basement for the most part, just because I don't want to get my wife and kids sick because we can handle it.
Uh huh.
But I ain't getting my kids sick because they're
No,
no.
sir.
And my wife, I don't want to, but her job, she can get a lot of people sick if she gets sick.
Yeah.
So I'm sucking it up and staying down here, which is cool. I got a nice little air mattress, a big old thick thing, and I've got my studio set up. I brought my big speakers down here. It's actually pretty cool. It's like being confined in a man cave.
Yeah.
I've got a projector set up down here. I can just hook to my laptop and watch movies on the wall with the big speakers. That's kind of awesome.
Now, what do you like watching? What are you into?
Oh man, I'm into everything.
Have you
Um,
seen that Tiger King thing yet?
oh, dude, I did a video of the Tiger King the other day.
Okay, okay. So here's the deal. No, I watched it last night for the first time. I have not watched all of it. I am intrigued because it's so bizarre. It's almost like a bad car accident you want to ignore, but you can't. You
Oh,
know?
it's like a bad car accident with a train and an airplane involved in it.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, I have sat through every episode of the Tiger King, and when a new one came out where they interviewed people after it, I sat through that too.
I never knew any of this crap. I never knew. I never knew any of this existed, though.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I mean, well, I mean, I guess it was, was uh, was regulated to Florida, but it's just weird, man. It's like you can't make that stuff up. I
Yeah.
can't make that up, and the characters are almost like they're unreal looking. You know,
Oh man, it is
it's
just
like,
oh
and I know you've seen it all, so I'm dying to find out. I don't want any spoilers, but it's like, I will say this: that woman obviously killed her husband. There's no way around that
oh now just because she had sardine oil and tigers and
one. Yeah.
he's totally gone. Don't mean he's a tiger turd anywhere.
I don't think that. I just think something. I mean, it's just too. It was too blatantly obvious. But yeah, that's a fascinating show.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I just was. I was kind of amazed it didn't make world news because of the weirdness of it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, the funny part is I know people like that. Not with the
What?
tigers or anything, but I know this type of people.
What? Like Tiger? What do you mean?
Know the people who are just that odd.
Well, they were Southerners, right? Well, no, kind of. I
No,
mean, I don't know.
Oklahoma and Florida.
Okay, yeah. So
Yep,
they're just eccentric characters we meet in life.
definitely. I'll tell you another one you might like if
Hmm.
you can finish the Tiger King.
Yeah.
Is I think it's the Wild Whites of West Virginia.
The wow. Okay. No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Oh, it is. Oh yeah, it's about a family that's in this little town in West Virginia. I mean, and it's a documentary. I mean, this is interviews real people, and holy crap, this is amazing. I can't even begin to tell you about it. It's so great. But no, I watch a little bit of everything. I mean, I love comedies. I love dramas. I'm into action. I actually saw the Rambo Last Blood the other night.
Yeah, I like that. Did you like that?
Oh man, I was expecting a lot less just because Stallone's getting older and Rambo is. I remember seeing the first one in the theaters and
The
it's
first
just
now. Okay, go ahead because I got to tell you about that. Go ahead.
and it's just kind of it's Rambo, but
Yeah.
this one delivered. I mean, it was so great.
I was worried because I thought maybe it's like one last vain attempt to recapture something or whatever.
Yeah.
But the very first blood, I think, was the best of the whole series.
Oh, it
Originally.
definitely was.
I mean that, and I felt bad when I heard that Brian Dennehy just had passed away.
Yeah.
So I thought, but it's funny. Did you ever read the book The First Blood was based on?
I have not read the book.
Okay, in the book, the sheriff who Brian Dennehy played was actually a Korean War veteran
Hmm.
who had a disdain for Vietnam veterans. And the movie was so controversial that they actually had to film all that up in Canada. They didn't even want it filmed in America.
Man.
But what was interesting was that was 1982 that movie came out, Brad.
Hmm.
There was a lot of mean things going on to Vietnam veterans.
Yeah.
I heard stories about veterans being spit on in airports, just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So that mentality in certain parts of the world existed. And if you look at First Blood, it wasn't because he was a veteran. That wasn't why he was giving him crap. He thought he was just a hobo, drifter dude coming to his town.
Yeah.
But that was a great movie. The second one was mostly for commercial value.
Yeah. And I
Third,
still dug the second one.
yeah. The second one was good. I knew my friend Martin Cove was in that movie. He was the evil sensei in Karate Kid. He was in the second one. Marty Cove.
Hmm.
The third one was garbage. The one in Burma was kind of, I saw it one time and I had my fill of it. But
Yeah.
this one was great because, for one thing, he didn't have long hair, which to me was good because he wasn't trying to look like he did 35 years ago.
Yeah.
He aged. He looked like an aging person.
Yeah.
Secondly, he had more dialogue in this. If you look at, okay, I had heard somewhere, don't quote me exactly on this, you could Wikipedia it or Google it. In First Blood, Stallone only has like 5 lines.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a lot.
No, he doesn't talk. And in this one, his relationship in Last Blood with the young Mexican girl and the grandma. I mean, it was really a beautiful. I think it was a great thing. But I'll tell you what, man. Whew, the violence in that. I mean, they always had to set the bar for violence. They broke the bar on this one.
Yeah. And I mean, it was just, man, it was great.
And it dealt with a topic. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but it dealt with human trafficking,
Hmm.
a very real topic. So it was almost, it was real. I mean, obviously, it's still a fantasy movie, but unlike Rambo, the second one where he's sent into Vietnam to take pictures, and the third one where he just goes and tries to save his friend in Afghanistan. This one was very, it dealt with something that's very real. So yeah, I recommend the watch. It is a little cringe. There are you could agree there's some if you don't like action in movies, there are a couple cringe-worthy kills in that movie.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But it's an
It's all
awesome movie.
make believe though, people. It's all CGI. It's not real. That's why I'm excited. I got to get in touch with Joe Alves though. That's why I'm excited about Joe Alves.
Mhm.
Besides building the shark for Jaws, that's the man who built the set for Close Encounters
Nice.
and Escape from New York. And he directed Jaws 3. And back then, before CGI, when we were kids, before CGI was the thing, they would actually build a 25-foot shark or a 7-story plaster mountain. So
Yeah.
he's got stories. Joe started out on Forbidden Planet, dude, way back in the day. He worked with Hitchcock on Torn Curtain. Like, the guy is amazing.
Mhm. And I love CGI because he can do things that nobody else can do. I mean, it'll never happen. But to me, like I say, the old days when you had the effects guy who, okay, we need this, and he's got to figure out how to make it.
Uh-huh.
That was awesome. One of my favorites was Tom Savini.
Yeah.
And I remember getting a book of his when I was probably about 16 or 17 and learning a little bit and just kind of taking off from that and learning to do makeup and special effects stuff. And actually, around Halloween, would make a good bit of money doing it. As a matter of fact, that's one thing that helped me get into radio.
Really?
Yeah, I did the staff of one of the radio stations in Augusta. They were doing a remote for Halloween, and all of them wanted to be made up. So I went and, they came to the house, and I did makeup on all of them and went to the remote that they were doing and just got to talking to the programming director. And next thing you know, I was on their sister station, a country station. And found out I really like doing radio.
Yeah, you got a knack for it.
I've got the face for it too.
We do, yeah.
I've got the perfect look
That's
for
why
radio.
that's why I'm a behind the scenes guy.
Oh yeah.
No one wants to see Quasimodo in real life.
Oh man, the people tell me I'm uglier than farting in church.
Me too. I'm not winning any beauty contest. But no, this is cool, Brad. Man, I enjoy doing this. Like I said, it's about the connections we make in life. That's really what all it's about at the end of the day.
Definitely.
People say, "What do you like?" It's the connections we make in life, and just like with you, and I don't have a favorite. I've been asked many times, well, who's like your favorite person you ever worked with? I don't have a favorite. They all have a little shred of uniqueness in their own way. They all have a shred of light, and it really varies. There's no favorite.
Yeah, that's like asking you which of your kids is your favorite. You know, you just.
I mean, if I had kids, I could answer that one, but
Yeah, I think Joe Pesci did it the best on Lethal Weapon 4. When he told the story about Froggy,
I don't
he's,
remember. No.
yeah, he had a pet frog that he took everywhere, and it was his
Okay.
favorite thing in the world. And his name was Froggy.
Okay.
And one day, Froggy died,
Okay.
and he didn't think he would ever love a pet again. And he got another one,
Hmm.
and he loved it. He said it wasn't that I didn't love Froggy anymore or any less, and I didn't love this one anymore or even less.
Okay.
It was just a different pet. I loved it
That's
just the
pretty good.
same but different, and that kind of hits home.
Yeah. No, that's very good. I mean, people. There are people to me are irreplaceable. You can't just replace people,
Yeah,
but it's in their own little way. And I said a lot of for me. It's been an interesting journey. I like working with the up and coming people now, but it's been an interesting journey working with people who, when you and I were kids, I grew up watching their stuff, man, and I was just really I was a fan of their work, and then to meet them
yeah,
and hear their interest outside of their work, because a lot of people, they don't like talking about it outside of work. I mean, and to hear them and hear what they're all about, that's cool stuff, you know.
yeah, yeah.
But no, this has been Brad. Thanks, man. It's been cool.
Oh, I've had a blast, and you know you're welcome on here anytime.
Thank you. I enjoyed this very much. I know it's not one of your best interviews, but and I'm sorry, like I said, forgive me for all the background noise. I'm just trying to shuffle through the day here, you know, and
Oh,
get things done.
oh, you're fine, man. You're fine. We've had a good one. I mean, I think it was ranked right up there.
Thank you, pal. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but yeah,
Well, let me know when we go off the air. I'll give you the info for Joe, and we'll go from there. But keep up the good work, and thanks for all the help you've done with your show. And I'm glad that this has been it's a good collaboration. And when I hope everybody stays safe and well during these dark times, you know.
definitely,
All right,
definitely.
Brad. Well, thanks, man.
Hey, thank you. Everybody, this has been Smoke Meat. This has been Steve Joyner. Y'all have a good one.